Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Mrs. Pinky Thoughts. I am your host, Mrs. Pinky, and I am honored to be with our special guest today. His name is Greg Bulla. How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. How are you, Miss Pinky?
I am awesome. Before we get started, I want to put up some information for you guys up on the screen so you guys can reach me. Obviously, the name of the show is Mrs. Pinky Thoughts, and all of my social media is at the bottom. My Facebook, my YouTube channel, my Twitter, and my Instagram. But I'm also the media manager for ConsciousConservativeMedia.net. And if you want to be a part of the Conscious Conservative movement and you want to see what else we got going on that's not all available on Twitter, you can go over and join ConsciousConservativeMedia.net for free, thanks to our sponsors. And if you feel like you enjoyed our conversation that we're having today and you want to bless this channel so I can keep going and keep on showing up, I have some stuff at the top. I have my CashApp at Mrs. Pinky 85 and my PayPal me on the other side. But we're going to get right into it. Greg, how are you doing tonight?
I am pretty good. Hope you are too.
I am blessed and highly favored. I know Sonny says that, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's so awesome. And I'm going to give her credit though. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is because we both already work together. We work over at the Conscious Conservative Media, and a lot of people don't know about some of our behind the scenes people and a lot of the other people who contribute. And you have 2 channels, you've done blog posts, you've done live streams, you've done some of our meetings and everything. And I was like, people need to get to know you as awesome as I do. Yeah. So I wanted to invite you on the show, and I'm going to try to get more people that are over there and on other sides of Twitter so we can show that there's a lot of voices. There are a lot of people. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get connected with us? Like, tell us a little bit about your background, whatever you feel like talking about right now.
Yeah. So I really got connected with Conscious Conservative Media Network. It goes back a few years ago. I wasn't really paying much attention to like politics, social issues, what have you, up until like election times. But that changed a few years back. And I started feeling a little uncomfortable at the way things were going, locally, nationally, and so forth. So I started questioning where I stood on a lot of issues and realized I was a lot more conservative than I ever gave myself credit for. So I go on social media. I'm looking for these conservative outlets where I can read from other conservatives and so forth. And I start following them. And then one of them is Breitbart News on Facebook. So I'm scrolling through my news feed on there one day, and Breitbart shares this clip of the original Did She Say That podcast. So there's this picture of Sonny on there, arms folded with that T-shirt with that "Don't try me, try Jesus" look on her face. And I had never heard of her before, didn't know anything about her before, but I looked at that expression. I was like, I feel like I need to listen to this or I'm going to get in trouble somehow. So from there on, I was hooked. And then from there, I find Kira, then I find Coach, and then I was doing the thing that she says with Twitter class before I even knew what Twitter class was. I was just kind of following along, and I really liked the message, the way she presented it, because it wasn't like, hey, you need to come listen to us. It was like, you're welcome to come listen to us. Here's what we offer. And I was like, I don't feel apprehensive at all about that. So I started following her on Twitter and getting involved a little more, and then introduced to the network. And then from there, we started having those weekly Zoom meetings last year, and I was just enjoying the fellowship with everybody on there, and then it just grew from there.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean when you said things were getting to where you felt like you had to go out and search for these persons? Like you went out and actually looked for and found Sonny and everybody, but what was going on at the time that made you feel like you had to do something as opposed to just ignoring it and just living your life?
Well, and during Obama's second term, I had been, since I was old or able to vote, I'd been voting Democrat from college on, and I started thinking about some of the things that were happening locally, like with the in North Carolina, we call it the bathroom bill, and the blowback from a lot of that about where if you had a different opinion, you were shouted down. And I was seeing a lot of that in our local news and a lot of the things that were happening with that. the things that were happening, like as far as like any those incidents like terrorist attacks or those shootings locally, and then it was like, all right, America has to apologize for this somehow. Somehow it's our fault, and I was like, I don't feel good about this. I started to feel attacked, and then I was looking where all this was coming from, and it just kind of made me question where I stood politically. And I started thinking about what do I believe in, and I just I, I realized I was more conservative than I was.
Awesome. And you say from where you stand, and I titled this show from where he stand after your channel over there. That's from where I stand. What exactly does that mean for you, and what are you trying to accomplish with your channel and your content that you've been putting out over the last couple of months?
Yeah, so I thought about that with the title, and I put from where I stand because I wanted it to come from where I feel and what I see as an individual, my point of view, and then put it out there to the wider community. So basically, everything that I offer for my content on my channel, even from what I do with the book club, this is kind of my mindset of, well, I think this is important. This is how I feel about this issue. Let me share this with everybody.
That's awesome. That's exactly how mine became MrsPinky Thoughts. I tweet a lot more than your average user. I got a lot of them, and then I was like, well, why don't I call that my content, MrsPinky Thoughts? And it's to let people know this is just what I think. I'm not saying you have to think like me or agree with me, but that's why it's called MrsPinky Thoughts. And I think we had this thing on Twitter called Thursday Thoughts, where people were just putting out thoughts, and that's where I got the idea from. So I thought your channel kind of sounded close to that, but I wanted to get your opinion about that. What have you learned about yourself and, just in general of being a part of the group or just being involved politically a little bit more than you were before?
I think that what I've learned now, I think a little more critically past the headline. Like there's a lot of things that I used to take face value with what a story said, like a headline and on TV or newspaper or whatever. And I've heard others in the group and then through other Twitter conversations and podcasts that I've followed where, what you see just in that byline or that headline, there's more to the story than that. And that has made me stop and pause where I used to be quick to have an opinion and have a reaction. Now I just kind of step back and kind of think through it before I reach a conclusion. That's been the biggest thing for me. And I've found that when I do that, I don't get triggered by things or upset by certain things in the news like I used to do.
Yeah, so we're talking about how you grew with doing your work and working your channel and everything. You was talking about how you don't get triggered so easily. One of the main things that triggers people is because we're called conscious Black conservatism, and it's actually an ideology to help bridge the gap between Black citizens in America and conservative principles, because a lot of the times most Black Americans have conservative principles, but they're just not interested in nothing anybody who has an aura has to say because of historical content. So we get attacked a lot of the times because of the word Black, and that it might be divisive or that it might be segregationist or something like that. How do you feel as a member of our organization and just dealing with us daily or on Twitter or whatever? How do you feel as a non-Black person being associated in this organization? What do you think about the Blackness and the pro-Black message that we're putting out?
I feel pretty good with everything. I mean, I've never felt like the odd person out or anything like that. I can't remember a time in my life when I did, honestly. You go back to when I was as young as in high school or earlier. I'm in a small town high school, small town in North Carolina. Come up through that, and I don't know so much the whole school district, but the schools that I came up in predominantly white. So basically, I'm used to associating with people around school that, for lack of a better term, look like me. It wasn't completely so, but still. And then I go off to college and develop a much wider worldview because I see a lot of different people from a lot of different places. And taking what I was brought up, be good with people and be respectful and understanding and open-minded. Never had a problem. And now here with you all, it's like we've only known each other for what, year or two at the most. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like, oh, we go way back. We should be swapping college stories or something. We've only known each other that long though, so I, I felt pretty good with it. And I've watched some of the membership that we have come in and the different mix of people, and obviously is something about Coach's message that resonates with others and it makes them feel welcome here. So, and I feel welcome. So, man, I love y'all to death. So y'all are all good with me.
Awesome. What do you think the disconnect though is from some of the people maybe new to Twitter class, or they may just be new to some of us individually as we are talking? Like you maybe Sharice is out there tweeting, or I'm out there tweeting, or Olivia might be out there saying something. What do you think is the disconnect between the conservative white culture and our pro-blackness, and the fact that we don't subscribe to some of the conservative ink talking points?
I think that it goes back to a lot of those white conservatives, what they were raised in and their culture, their elders, what they were brought up in and what was taught to them. And they've never really seen a side of it where, they understand skin color for more than just a visual and what it would mean to someone culturally, whether we're talking black, white, Asian, or what have you. Where you're from, who you grew up with, and what you know and what you've done makes you who you are and adds to your culture. And I don't think a lot of those white conservatives have been exposed to that. Not that they're literally just opposed to it, but when you get so entrenched in one type of belief, it's very hard to broaden your mind out to something otherwise. And that's why they get triggered. And we've had those talks about the colorblind thing. And there's so many white conservatives that, let me use my Southern womanism, bless their hearts, they mean well when they say they don't see that color, but they just don't know. And then when you correct them on that, they're like, "What did I do? What did I do?" And it's a hill we're going to have to get over if we want to get to the other side. But it is what it is.
Do you think color blindness has gotten us this far? Like, do you have frustrations about where the GOP has been and where it's headed? I know you are in charge of the book club, and me and you and a couple of other people have done talks with Loneliness of a Black Republican and different discussions about race, because we don't shy from that topic over here. So what exactly did you gain from these conversations? Do you feel like the GOP is being intentionally racist? Do you feel like they are pushing us out? Or do you feel like there's just a big misunderstanding about how to do things differently?
I think it's a little of it, all of that. I think there's a lot of willful ignorance on the side of the GOP. I think there's a lot of people that just don't, some that don't know better, maybe not in the higher positions of leadership. And there's some that I think really do want to make a difference, but they don't get elevated the way they should because they kind of move away from what the establishment wants to maintain that status quo that is. Because if it's kept them in power this long, why do they feel like they want to change anything?
When you see us navigating these areas out, when we're out there and we're actually trying to actively like recruit and do outreach, and we get pushback of, oh, you need to run from the cities, or just socialism is just bad, we need to just have a national divorce. How does that make you feel when that's the topic, when we're having those discussions?
I think, to borrow someone else's phrase, they need to stop and just listen to themselves. I mean, think about what you're saying there. Okay, if you run from the cities, for instance, who does that leave? It leaves the Democrats and the left to have a power base that they can keep growing unchecked. And do you think they're going to stop from there? No, they have no reason to. They know you'll run. So if they just push in on where you're at, you'll run. If you don't hold the line somewhere and fight back, then you're going to keep getting pushed until you get to the edge, and the only place to go is fall.
Exactly. So we're having this battle state to state to state. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are upset nationally about the national presidency and everything, but we focus locally and talk about local elections. We have some people that are in Texas, California. Me and Felicia are down in Georgia, and we're dealing with Georgia politics. Can you give us a sense of what the North Carolina politics is looking like right now? Is they trying to be more purpley, going towards more blue? Is it like trickling down now? We get more blue as we go further south, or is there a pushback in North Carolina? I know we have problems with your lieutenant governor and some comments he made, but what exactly
Mhm.
are you getting as someone who's native to North Carolina and you know the history and everything about your state? What can you tell us about North Carolina politics?
Historically, I don't really have any hard data or anything like that. I know where I'm at locally in Kernersville, it's pretty much red. We've got our state House rep is Republican, our state Senate rep is Republican, the mayor is Republican, as well as the city manager. So Kernersville's kind of got that locked down in a conservative framework. The state legislature, last I heard, was predominantly Republican, but I'm not sure what the majority is. As far as the trend goes, I don't know. It's hard to say because I kind of compare what our governor does compared to what I hear in some of the other states, and we've got a Democrat governor.
Okay.
And Roy Cooper, I used to think was like Warden Cooper, we used to call him when we were going through the lockdown phase. And then I hear what's going on in California with Newsom, and I'm like, oh God, this guy looks like a teddy bear compared to this dude. And I don't know if it's just like a Southern culture kind of thing that makes Cooper's Democrat nature a little different than what we see out west or what, but I can't get a good vibe for any of the trends. I know that yeah, there was some problems with Mark and what he said most recently, and then when he explained it, I was like, all right, why didn't you just lead with that? I'm sitting here having these conversations about this with my wife, and see, she doesn't like the politics and stuff like this. She hates to get into those discussions and whatnot. And we kind of land on other sides of the fence, so to speak, on that. So if that was a little dicey in the last 4 years with the previous administration. That was a lot of fun. But
do you do you see North Carolina possibly getting a Republican governor or just staying blue? I know you guys have a different system where you get to elect a different type of lieutenant governor, and they
yeah,
don't come together. So
right.
you can elect one from one and one from the other. And do you think Roy is treading the line because he knows that North Carolina is a little more purple than it is?
He seems to be moderate to me right now. I mean, I've not heard any word about this one or that one that they want to put out as a front runner to him when he comes up for reelection again. I know that his previous challenger, Dan Forrest, ran one of the quietest campaigns I've ever seen. It's almost like if he didn't have a commercial on once in a while, you would forget he was there as a challenger. So
Mhm.
that I don't know if he just didn't get support or he just was not in it to win it at all, or what happened. But I don't know. I thought at one time that maybe at some point maybe they would push Mark Robinson for that. But then kind of lately, I'm like, he might push too many people the wrong way. I don't know. So I don't know. But Cooper's been sort of tame here lately. I think he looked at what happened out west and saw how there's a potential for pushback. So maybe he kind of slowed down a little bit, especially as far as mandates and so forth go. I mean, like our county or the county next to us in Guilford County has a mask mandate for indoors and stuff like that. But here where I'm at in Forsyth County and Winston-Salem in that area, it's like you go in, whatever, no mask if you want, mask if you want, doesn't matter.
I want to shift gears. So you were one of a group of people who decided that we needed a book club and that we wanted to decide to discuss books and reviews. But you're the one who's choosing the books that are being presented at the book club. And can you tell us a little bit about how you're selecting your books and why you particularly pick the books you have? I do like the next one that's coming up. But
Oh yeah,
can you tell us a little bit about how you're thought process went when you decided, okay, I'm gonna be in charge of this, and these are the books that I am picking?
So when I thought about it, the first one I did, I knew I really wanted to do really bad after Jeff did that 3-hour marathon on the Lily White movement and how blacks were pushed out of the Republican Party. And I'd heard so much about the book, The Loneliness of the Black Republic. I was like, well, okay, that's definitely going to be the first one. I mean, that's kind of like real hot on the list of issues to talk about right now. And beyond that, I thought, let's go in areas of like culture and history, two areas that I want to like really incorporate in my channel and that are really important to me in the work that I do here on the network. So I would pick like a fiction book and a nonfiction book, and loosely based around a theme. So starting off with like the Harlem Renaissance, I wanted to like grab a book, fiction work from a writer from within that movement. When we did Zora Neale Hurston, Their Eyes Were Watching God, and then I'm like, let me find a good fiction or a nonfiction title that kind of goes along with that and kind of pair them back to back, month to month, and go forward. So that's what we did, the culture of sports in the Harlem Renaissance. And that's, I look forward, the months ahead and like, okay, let's see what's next. Like we've got attitudes regarding race in the South is like the next theme. So we've got Robert E. Lee and Me coming up next, a Southerners reckoning with lost cause myth, and then we're going to end it up with To Kill a Mockingbird in December. So, and I'm looking ahead, and I've got some other ideas that I want to do after the first of the year in the same vein. So if we keep it tied in with culture and history, I think it'll make us think a lot about where we're at now in both of those areas, and then kind of look back and learn from what happened before. Because a lot of the problems that we have and misunderstandings we have now are because people don't really understand history.
Oh, that is going to be definitely apparent when we talk about this Robert E. Lee and Me book. We're going to have some feelings about the lost cause history. Can you tell us a little bit about, you're from North Carolina. Do you feel like you learned lost cause history in high school growing up, or do you feel like you got more of a more even keeled look at American history being from where you are?
No, I had like the I don't know, like the cleaner, pristine version of history. Like I don't even remember hearing the term lost cause at all in high school in history. It was basically like the main events that we all learned about: Civil War, Revolutionary War. We never really went in depth. Like here's why they really happened. It was more or less like in those days in the curriculums, it was like, we've got to meet these goals to meet this standardized test, something at the end. So we're just going to go through this syllabus or curriculum here, and that's it. We never really got really deep into any of that history coming up through school.
So when you started to hear, like, Sonny and other people started to saying, well, actually, progressivism started thus and so and thus and so, and the first progressive president was Theodore Roosevelt, or the reason why we have this problem or that problem is this and that. How did you feel that? Do you feel like you were lied to in school? Do you feel like they were trying to withhold history, or do you feel like they just didn't know?
I don't know. I guess that buck has to stop somewhere. But say, for instance, my teachers in high school or middle school, I wouldn't really blame them because I feel like they were probably taught the same thing the same way. So they're really just kind of passing along what they have. There was nobody ever really that came up and challenged and said, no, I mean, because this really happened because of such and such. Nobody ever did that. So I don't know where exactly you would place the initial blame for things being taught the way they were, but yeah.
Awesome. So when you see some of the discussions that happen online between the difference between, I would say not as popular influencers, maybe people from Hotep Nation or maybe Monterey or other people we might associate with, versus who they put out in the forefront, why do you think the GOP is getting disconnected from what the people saying they want and need versus what they deciding to put out there?
I just don't think they're listening. I just don't think they're listening. I think if they pretend to listen, they're just paying lip service to those and saying or doing what they think they want to hear and see. But I don't think they're really like listening and then saying, okay, based on what I've heard from this person who really knows, I'm going to do this. I think we really saw that when Sonny was sitting, like 10 feet away from the president of the United States and saying, this is the way things really are. And then what happened after that? Here we are.
Yeah, so on Miss Pinky Thoughts, I try to give a balanced approach to some of the questions I ask people, and I try to ask people questions that they might, you know, they agree with me on it, or they might not, just to play a little devil's advocate on the thing. Do you see now how there is a shift though? Like maybe people are starting to see that some of the people's rhetoric is not working, and that their ROI isn't coming in for value in certain organizations against others. I see like certain people are coming now saying, hey, I see the GOP isn't doing this, or I see, that I don't see Republicans in that area. Are you sensing a shift in it? Do you feel like your content is getting out there? How do you feel about that?
As far as my content in particular that I do,
And just didn't that work?
just the reactions. I guess just some of the reactions that I get. I think so. Some of the follows that I get. I think that some people have seen some of the stuff that I've written, and they're at least saying, all right, let me see what he's doing here. Let me read a little bit of this and see what I think. And outside of what I'm doing, I feel like there's probably a shift based on the reactions I've seen in like Twitter conversations and so forth. Or maybe that's just the way that they've always felt, and now they're being more outspoken about it.
Do you see how currently we're battling the pandemic. We have higher gas prices. We have, they say in this winter to get the natural gas, and our heating bills are going up, and people are losing their jobs versus mask mandates or vaccine mandates, or some people are just losing their jobs because their businesses are shutting down. Do you see this as a failure under the Biden administration? Do you see this as a failure of stuff Trump did? What do you think is going on right now? And where do you stand, and what do you see as our politics has shifted since the last election?
I think for the bad things that have happened that you mentioned, it's a failure for us, a failure to see something better. I don't think it's a failure on the part of the Democrats and the Biden administration. I think they're successfully doing what they really want to do. I think that maybe there's a failure on Trump's side where they didn't care enough about winning and what they could do for the American people to allow this to happen as they did. So, there's blame to go around right there. But no, I don't think the left or the Democrats in this administration feels like they've failed. I think this is by design.
That this is just what they intended to do, and this is just the results of that.
Yeah, I mean
So
it's negative. It's chaotic in some respects. I don't think they really want it to be very stable and everybody happy because they as long as they've got somebody that they can say, okay, well, you're in a bad place. You need government help. You need this. You need all of this government sponsored aid. We need bigger government to help you because you're in a bad situation. Well, if you would like leave me alone and let me get back to work, let these companies, these small businesses open back up and not close them down with mandates and so forth, well, maybe I wouldn't need you and I could just need me and I could do that and we'd all be fine. So, yeah, I don't think they see it as a failure. Right now, they're probably high-fiving each other in the back room.
I can see it. I guess I can see it because I don't see how anybody could accidentally screw up this much and then just keep going and they have a way to spin everything. But do you think that we have come to a crossroads now that we might lose the actual foundation of the nation if we don't steer this thing into another direction? Or do you think we still have at least a slim chance that we able to right this ship?
I think we've got a chance. I think if our generation doesn't do something, then our kids' generation is going to be in a world of hurt. I mean, if you don't check the left and let them keep going the way they're doing now, then it's going to be really hard for anybody to do anything in the future. I mean, if we can see what happened with 2020 and the election and so forth like that, I mean, if there can be so much to be done behind the scenes to affect that, how to whatever degree it was, then what could happen elsewhere?
I think a lot of the times the government keeps growing because we refuse to check the government. Like Sonny always saying that they don't fear us, they don't respect us, and they don't answer to us. What are some of the things you would like to see the Republicans do as some sort of pushback or some kind of fight back against what's going on? Or do you even think they're even going to try?
I don't think the establishment ones will try. I think that for our side and the type of candidates that are movement champions, I think that's where you're going to see the pushback, in the education of their local constituents, as far as here's a way that we can help you, as opposed to here's an alternative to relying on the government help. Here's something we can give you and empower you to have a better job or take care of your kids, educate your kids, and so forth like that. And I think it'll come at more like a local and a grassroots level in different communities, and then go from there.
Awesome. Do you see your work expanding any kind of way? Let us into your mind about what you see far as your own platform and your influence growing. Do you see yourself getting into doing anything else, working with any other organizations? Do you see yourself traveling or maybe even, stepping from behind your desk a little bit more? What are your plans for like the next few years, or what do you think you're going to do next?
As far as the work expanded, I hadn't really thought about that. I've kind of thought a little bit about the different kinds of content I would like to do. I mean, my wheelhouse is like books and writing and so forth. So definitely I'll continue that. But the last book club thing I kind of did as a solo, like podcast recording, and I was like, kind of got comfortable hearing the sound of my own voice. I might do that a little bit more, and maybe work towards a podcast of some sort. So yeah, I'd like to see some things like that, and use that to develop a means of additional revenue streams and so forth.
What would be some of your advice to, say, white conservatives or anyone in general who may not necessarily understand that we're not just Black only, or that we're not just only focused on this, even though this is our main mission, because Black demographics have shown that we're the most that's under progressive thumbs. We've been progressive, democratic strongholds across the country for decades. So it's like more of a priority and urgent. But as it's spreading, as you're seeing, white moms and dads getting targeted at these school board meetings, or you're seeing them coming after, they made that domestic terrorism watch list, and they're using some of the same tactics that they did during the civil rights movement and the Black Panther movement when they were worried about them carrying guns. They're using the same tactics against the white community, or anybody who just disagrees with whatever is going on. It's not just the white community. You can be gay, and if you're saying something they don't like, they're coming for you. So what would your advice be to people who may feel like you do, maybe a lot, like maybe even more shy or just not real political? What is your advice to them from where you're sitting?
I think you got to just start talking to your neighbors more, literally and figuratively speaking, and just listen to these other voices, these other folks out there. Just have an open mind and just stop and think about what you're hearing and what you're saying, and then have those conversations with them when you have a chance, fellowship with them. Even if you don't talk about politics, if you can just establish some rapport on any kind of subject and get that interpersonal relationship going, then from there, that can be a gateway to talking about issues of, like, let's say for instance, oh, your kid goes to this school, well, my kid goes to that school too. What do you think about what they're talking about with this or that or the other? And then let's say that's a conversation between white parents and Black parents, and then they just start talking and sharing these ideas and building that relationship, and then that can just grow from there.
I don't normally do relationship topics because I feel like, that's a whole different can of worms. And I have my opinions of what I would think, that work and what's been working for me and my husband. Do you have any sort of tips for people who are under the amount of years you had, and something that you could just throw out there for us people who don't have the numbers you do, as far as relate, how you make marriage work, how yours lasted so long, things that you've seen over the years, and things that are just, even if it's different from what culture is accepting right now?
I sleep with one eye open.
You make sure you're good, huh?
Yeah, I tell the wife, and she was talking about this today. I was like, the insurance policy doesn't have that much in it. Don't get excited. I know you watch ID Channel all day long. You watch all those shows on ID Channel and all those whatnot. I'm like, no, don't think about it. It's cheaper to keep me. No, I mean, I've always, the funniest thing I heard about the whole thing about relationships, and we just hit 20 years this past year. So yeah.
I clap anybody that's logging in the day, like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, I look back, it's like, how did I do that? And then I know my wife somewhere like, how did I do that? Yeah, but someone once said that true love is finding that one special somebody out there who's willing to put up with all your crap. So I think once you do that,
I might take that real quick and put it on the banner.
I mean, really, you got to understand that you're going to really piss each other off at some point in time, several points in time. But if you love them to death, and I love my wife to death. I mean, she's crazy and everything, but you learn to live with that. You learned early on, probably even before you walk down the aisle, can I live with this person at their worst, even though you can love them at your best. So if you have those conversations with yourself and your significant other, I think you're fine. It's a process.
Definitely. What do you think is missing from today's culture, where men and women are having this disconnect, where men are like, oh, there's no good women, and women are da 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 da, and women are like, oh, men ain't ish, I can't find a good man? And what do you think is, I don't know if this is a modern problem, or is this just men and women is different and this has always been the problem? What do you think is happening with our culture, and leaving with the younger ones that are like 25 and they just like, I don't even want to be bothered? What do you think, as someone who's just done 20 years?
I don't know. I'm trying to look back and see, my parents were together for like 32 years. So, that's what I grew up around.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were together for a long time. My aunts, uncles, together for a long time. So that's the model that I grew up around. And I think my generation saw that more because moms and dads weren't as busy during that time. When I'm coming up and I'm small, my mom, picks me up from school. My dad works from dark 30 in the morning until whatever in the afternoon. And it was just, everything kind of had its steady, casual pace. And there was more time for family time. Nobody's in a rush, going this way and that way and the other. But, as I got older and then we were raising my son, we're going in different directions the whole time. And, I think more kids are seeing that. So I don't think they feel that bond of where, everybody's together in one place at one time enough. So you don't really get a good idea of what that type of relationship and bonding experience is like. So, and then when you go out looking for, somebody, I don't know, I guess you just don't have that representation to look at, and you don't understand what you're looking for. And I think that's really the beginning right there.
To know what you want, yeah. And to try to establish that. Mm-hmm. But I like to give the same advice you did, because you said you were for 20 years and I'm going on 11 years. And I believe, and I've think about this a lot because I had other relationships that seemed like at the beginning that they were going to go that way and they just didn't. And I feel like what makes us work is that we're best friends. So because we were soldiers, he saw me at my word. So when we decided to get into this, he already knew I was crazy. So he was, it wasn't like he was like, oh, she's doing this now. Nope, I've been crazy the whole time. So it's not like I'm springing it on him.
You knew what you were signing up for, Mr. Pinky.
I was like, you sure? Like, when we got married when they do the vows and everything, you like, you sure? Like, you sure? Because it's a lifetime, man, right?
Did you see what she did the other day?
That's why I think people have these expectations, and in the beginning, you do more. You do put you try to put your best representative. Like, all right, I'm trying to make this work. But then when you at home and you got your head down, you done had kids, they done seen your woo-ha because you done gave birth right in front of them. All of the fantasies that you have a relationship just go out the window. And then you're like, man, can I still be with this person after? I done seen them sick. I done seen them gain weight. I done seen them lose their hair, lose their mind, So that's why I'm so glad and grateful for my husband because he done been do all that. And it's like, I don't know if I told him right now, if something happened to you, I don't know if I can do this again because you know a lot. Like, you're going to take all that with you when you got
Yeah, it's weird. It's like for pretty much, I met my wife. We used to work at the same place. So pretty much the same with you and your husband. You worked at the same place.
So you get that glimpse. And I think one of the things with social media is everybody is trying to put, their best representative forward, also because people cancel culture and all this other stuff that's going on. So a lot of the times when you see, this lovey-dovey stuff, that's what people imagine and they get it from TV or from media. So when they get in a relationship and then it's like, what is this? This isn't what I thought. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can only get to know somebody so well from 280 characters or less.
True. That's why I'm also trying to make sure that I get everybody on my show because it's one thing when we talking, typing or whatever, and then versus we get in these interactions. Like right. I met Felicia for real, and then I was like, oh, a lot of stuff makes sense there. And then when she met me, she probably was like clicking too. So that's why I'm saying, like, I'll try to get us together for maybe go down to Albany or try to help out with King and everything. I met King virtually, so we talked out on the Zoom and everything. So it makes it more comfortable to find out that these are real people with real problems, real kids, real issues. And we're not just caricatures. Like, it's easy to characterize Biden or Trump because they're the bigger ones. But just seeing everyday people come out from behind their shells and be like, all right, we got to do something. I'm tired of I got an SUV and these gas prices, like
exactly, and that's concerns we can all share.
Exactly, and we're all American, but I mean we're like all different. Like even though I'm a black female, I'm not like Sunny or Felicia. We all three of us are three different personalities, or Donique and Charisse. All of us could be in the same room. We're all very different, So that's what I think makes America great. Not saying we see each other the same. Or, colorblindness just means we treat each other the same regardless. No, you see I'm black. You see I got a rag on my head. Like, you don't have to see, put on some kind of visible.
It's like, this is like living. This is what I do. This is how I roll from sun up to sun down. And we all have that, so. Yeah,
exactly. And I think once we break that down and you can see, because we're conservatives, right? So at the end of the day, we're supposed to conserve the individual. So how are you conserving the individual if you can't even see the race of the person? Or I'm not saying see the race and then that shouldn't change anything. Okay, I got dark skin. You should treat me to say if this was lighter. I have a sister who looks like me, who's lighter. So
your sister looks exactly like you.
Oh, that's my other sister. Yeah, Miss Frizar. But I have another one. But she's the lighter one. But Miss Frizar, we play with the babies. We let them do they get us mixed up sometimes. And she's a twin too. That's what's funny. But I digress. But so that's why I also wanted to bring you on the show, because like a lot of people think just because we want to make it clear that we don't have to be ashamed, or we don't have to hide, or we don't have to chastise the Black community to get them to be conservatives, because most of the Black community is conservative. It's just, how do we get the Black community to want to support a party that feels like that party isn't supporting them. And that is what our mission is try to bridge the gap. We can't just say progressivism is terrible. Democrats suck. Duh, I'm from Baltimore. Of course Democrats suck. But where are the Republicans? And now I see Kim Clackett, K-Slick, or I'm sorry, I mispronounced her name, but I see Kim. She's in Baltimore doing her, got her heels on and walking and showing her doing her thing. So now you're starting to see Republicans show up in certain areas. So that's why I use my platform to also showcase other people. Like the mom I did, Jonah, she was from Arizona. She was just a mom, and then she was white. Who cares? But she was a mom who saw that there was a problem in her local community, and she got other moms, and now they got a group of 200 plus moms in Arizona gonna do something. And they was all due to Sharpie Gate and all of that during the election. And so she decided to do something, a regular mom. So that's why I try to put more people on this side of me, so that way that you guys can show up and, you know, we have a good time. We be chatting and over the network. So I want other people to experience, you know, your awesomeness like I do.
Yeah.
So that's why we keep laughing and everything, because we've already talked and stuff. And like
she's already experienced my awesomeness, and now it's just don't worry, there'll be a replay so you can experience it as many times as you want.
Yes,
Unlimited replay.
Yes, you can have it. It is just awesomeness. And that's why I love when Sonny and other people say we need to have these fire conversations, because people are actually shutting the door on each other because they're not, you know, coming out and they're not talking and they're not discussing, or they hear black conservatism and they go, oh no. And then I'm like, no, we got white people over here, don't run.
Hey, come me.
Yeah, like, and then we got people that are not even ADOS. We got you know, black immigrants and people from the diaspora. And so you just, before you just hear black and get triggered and be like, oh, I can't do this, this is segregation. Hold up, let's see what we have to offer first. And then
exactly.
You know, yeah, and then we try to have a good time too. We're not, you know, if you read any of our tweets, we're not serious all the time. So,
exactly.
And I'm like, Greg is always in the audience of my show, and I very much appreciate it. But I was like, why aren't you ever on the show? So I thank you so much for agreeing to do the show.
Oh,
and I'm not going to try to hold you too much longer, but we talk all the time anyway. But and I got to tell you that I made biscuits from scratch anyways. I made some biscuits. I be making you hungry.
Feed them through the camera.
I'm telling you, we have a conscious conservative event. I might see if she want me to do something. I might give myself another job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you're the official caterer of all of our in-person.
Yeah. And then do that. But I cook old school, so I'm sorry if you're in any kind of diets and stuff. I can't help you there.
Yeah, the only kind of diet I'm on is I put it in front of me and I eat it. That, you know, that tweet that somebody sent around not long ago, like, how many of these things have you eaten? See how Southern you are. There's like 39 things on the list, and I got like 37 of them. I think the only thing I didn't eat on there was gator tail and poke salad. Everything else I've had at least once.
I think that's the funnest thing about having been able to move around the country. And I do think that people should experience it. If you're talking about the United States and you haven't been to anywhere else, you got to try to go to another state. My next one is probably Texas, just to see what's up. I mean, I've been all the way to California. I used to live out there, but I haven't actually stopped and hanged out and had fun in Texas. I just went through it when we were kids. But yeah, I talked to you a lot because I actually lived in North Carolina. We served in the 82nd Airborne, which is in Fayetteville, so Vietnam. And I'm like, that's not really a good representation of the entire state of North Carolina. I think it's unfair to judge y'all by Fayetteville.
Yeah. My most memorable, thing in Fayetteville was going to the Cumberland County Civic Center to see KISS in '92. In this little arena, it looks like a big high school gym with a big heavy ceiling. So you've got all these servicemen and women that are in there, and all the rest of us just going nuts. And I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yes, and I do have some family members up in Durham, and my family actually comes from South Carolina, North Carolina, and then what they did was moved up to Maryland to look for work, and that's how my family got up there on my dad's side. And so, like I said, I've been through different states, but that's why I wanted to get you on the show, because I wanted more people to see you and see your face and see your presence, so they can get an idea. Oh, this is who Greg is when he's tweeting and when he's talking out there. And your tweets might get lost in all the other crazy discussions. Like if Jeff puts out something crazy out there, we be like, what is he doing?
We need
So
Jeff. Without Jeff, what would we have? We would laugh a lot less.
yeah. Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness. And I had him on here talking about healthy debates, and this boy is up here like, this man is up here like, well, I'm not wrong. So I'm like, well, how you gonna get me in
you see,
trouble?
Jeff is like that kid that you're sitting next to him in school, and he says this crazy thing, and then you repeat it, you get in trouble, and he's back there going, he's that kid.
Yes. So we got a couple of new faces. I had Tina and I had Danico in, and I'm going to try to get T-Cat whenever I can grab him. And we're just sitting here talking. I try to tell people that my podcast is not serious. It's not like a news entertainment show. Or I might start going into more detail about definitions and constitutional terms. It depends on the guest. I didn't have guests at first. I was just talking to people who were just coming in and leaving comments and whatever. But then I decided to use my platform to help other people elevate and everything, and then other people just come and go if they want to be on the show. But I'm so glad I had you here, and I'm not going to keep you much longer. I don't try to, some podcasts, they be like 2
I mean,
hours.
I've had dinner, so I'm good. And,
Oh, you had dinner, you good.
and I've got my coffee.
Too,
If you can find these mugs like this, they're really good. If you go to her merch,
some people be like, "Oh, you grifting or whatever," but I'm probably going to do some merch and
hey,
stuff.
I don't get any money from this. I'm just doing this out of goodness of my heart.
But we got some stuff coming up in November. Felicia wants to do the Twitter podcast as a summit and have a whole week of different speakers and different guests. And we're so much doing this so we can get people informed and involved. A lot of people just really not sure what's going on or how to approach it. We have people that are young. We have people who worked in the community, like Vonnie, who actually works with his local office, and he actually works with both sides, Democrats and Republicans, because he's trying to help his city. And then so the aim of the whole mission is just to get people more aware, and that's why we added the academy part onto it. It was just conscious conservative media.
It's evolved so much since we first started.
Yes, I know.
It was conscious conservative network, and then it was media network, because it was like 4 professors in the cohorts, and then we were just consuming the content that way. And then it just went like
Justice League next, or no, she likes Loki, so we're gonna be the Avengers next.
Exactly. And then you can just see Felicia sitting here like, wait a minute, we could do this, and this, and this, and this, and then it just suddenly blows up, and then
I just be like, yes, ma'am, because it's her ideas are.
I trust her genius.
Yes, so we're good, but and I love how she tells us to share our stories, because a lot of us, we present an image online, and because it's social media, we don't try to talk about them, but that actually shows people that we're human too, and individuals. At the end of the day, we do talk about the collective a lot, about like the Black community or white conservatives or Republicans, Democrats, but at the end of the day, we are uniquely to ourselves, even within our marriage. My husband is still his own person. He's totally different than me. You probably won't even see his face because that's how he is. But, that saving America, I don't even like using the word saving, because I feel like we've been fighting the whole time this country's been a country. It's been the American Revolution and then a war ever since. So I personally don't like using the word saving America. It's more like trying to always constantly improve America. Let us live up to the ideals of what all of those people in the beginning was trying to create when they started to think of this country. Yeah, they was imperfect people too, and we're imperfect people too, and we're trying to create the best we can while we wait for Christ to come back, or whatever your religious beliefs are. So we're trying to do the best we can on this planet, and so it's like this is the standard, and we're just trying to meet that or exceed it. So
right.
And we all are doing our part. You're a network professor over there, and then you write, and you're taking care of your family. You contributed to your community that way, and so that's why we do what we do.
Yep, that's good. That Twitter summit is November the 1st through the 5th, right?
Yes, November 1st to the 5th. And we're going to have speakers like every day. I
Yeah.
don't know if she's going to do an all day thing or is this going to be like one a day or something like that. I don't know yet. We're supposed to find out sometime soon. And then we're just getting the information out. And I think there's a VIP. So if you want to access lifetime access to the replays, like say one day you can't show up and you want to be like, oh, I'm going to get this. So that's $25. But she said the price might change if you don't go ahead and go get that now. So if you're going to go get the VIP, it would. And I feel like we're going to have some jobs to do. When that come down, we each going to probably have to do something. So you know it's coming.
I know, that's good. Yeah, the next book club thing will be right in the middle of that when we're talking about the Robert E. Lee and me book on November 3rd.
I say throw it out there in the middle of the summit. I mean, shoot.
Exactly.
Yep. And so we'll do more of that. And that book, I'm gonna get the book. If I can't make it to your meeting, I'm definitely gonna comment in the comments about that book, because when I first heard about it, I was interested, because it's one thing for people who like up north to talk about Robert E. Lee, because they don't have to really settle that in here, that they were born with Robert E. Lee or they're from the South. So to hear someone from the South and then their ideas of him and then learning about who he really was and things and how they meshed all that and still be proud to be American, all of that is going to be very interesting. And I can't wait to hear your take on that, because your takes on all of this, your articles on your local history from High Point, North Carolina, that one was very good. It was an excellent write-up about how the people were sitting at the table and, that was during Jim Crow, and how a lot of people think when something happens that they're going to be that person to stand up and do the right thing, or I'm going to, not get out my seat like Rosa Parks. They think, oh, it's my moment, I'm going to do it. But a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and they were literally physically assaulted. And
yeah, they was getting, like, when you go back and you look at, people were getting rocks thrown at them, dog sick throwing them, freaking, dragged by the police, batons and stuff. And now people are like, I don't want to put a mask on. And I'm like, no, it's beating you yet. So where's your line at? And so everybody thinks that when that stuff goes down, they're going to be on the right side of history, or they're going to be the ones that are, even some people trying to create moments. Like, I was there at the riot 2020 because I was like, yay. No, that's different than these people having to choose. I might not be able to eat. I might not be able to work. I might not. And we're getting to that time now. What side are you going to be on?
Exactly.
But thank you again for joining me in a new episode of Mrs. Pinky Thoughts. I very much appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you in the comments again for another episode. And we're definitely going to do this again, because we could talk all night long, but I'm not going to try to hold you that much longer. Thank you again, Greg, and see you back over at the network.